Directions to create the jacket foundation sleeve. You can find these directions in 462 of your textbook with the diagrams for the slash and spread method to develop the sleeve pattern. You're going to enlarge it just slightly. This video, though, will show you how to utilize Adobe Illustrator in order to do so. If you do not already have your jacket foundation with your name or initials file open, go ahead and open that file. We're going to add a second artboard. Artboards are found under your layers panel over here on the right hand side. By clicking artboard, I can click the new artboard icon. It looks just like adding a new layer. And we'll put that there. It's like a second sheet of paper. I'm going to go back to my layers panel next. Now we need to open our basic sleeve sloper. You can get that from My Course Connection in this lesson. I've already got mine open here. I need to select the sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag around everything. I'm going to copy that. Command copy is my keyboard shortcut to do so. I'm going to come back to my jacket foundation file. I'm going to go to my torso draft, my original drafts layer. I'm going to unlock that. I can tell this artboard is the one active because of the black outline, and I'm going to paste. It actually pastes in the center of my screen, but I can click and drag this sleeve over. Now, when I click on the sleeve, you'll find everything is grouped. So let's ungroup it. You do that by going to the Object menu and Ungroup. Now then, I deselect everything by clicking Away. Now I just need to click the perimeter of my sleeve. It has a solid white fill. I'm going to go ahead and change that to a nothing fill so I can see my grid in between or underneath. And in this one I need to select the sleeve perimeter, the bicep line, and our center guideline. So with that I can click and drag and get my sleeve perimeter. I am going to go ahead and bring my notches on over, my bicep line, and the center guideline here. I can hold the shift key down and click on the grain line at the moment to deselect it. I am going to copy that. I'm going to click away from everything to deselect it. I'm going to go ahead and lock the torso draft layer that also has my original sleeve on it. Going to click on the jacket foundation to move to the top of the list. Now add a create new layer on top of that. I will double click on that layer and I'm going to name it sleeve. Now I can use my paste in front keyboard shortcut, and that is the command or the control key. Hold that down and press the letter F, and it pastes that selection that I copied right in front of where it had been. So I'm going to do that. Now we are going to go ahead and turn the eyeball off on our torso draft just so that nothing's in our way. We're going to use our diagram in the book on page 462 to start aligning some guidelines in order to help us set the locations for points that we will then need to cut on our object path, so that then with the cut pieces we can start to spread them apart. So I am going to zoom in here. I need to actually see my bicep line. I need to put a point on the halfway line here, halfway between a corner point under the arm to my center guideline. Now I can click, hold, and drag and have a pretty good idea here that this is about 6.16 inches. I'm looking at my my length there on that. So at about 6.16, I am going to actually need to be at about 3 points. So I'm just rounding that down since it was a 0.1. And at 3 inches. I can put that line right there. I'm going to use my keyboard arrow just to push it up a little bit. Okay, I am going to hold my command key down, click away from everything. Now I'm going to make another segment from the other armhole, check the overall length. I can see that that is 6.16 again, very good. And then I need this to only be 3 inches. And I can get as close as I can. 3.02 is close enough. And I'm going to keyboard arrow nudge that up above a little bit. Now I can zoom in just a hair so I can see how close those lines are. By using my pen tool, I can add an anchor point on my bicep line at that same length as the little guidelines that I just positioned. So by adding those points. Now I am zooming out. I am using my selection tool to select the segments that I made that were the half distances so I could figure out where to place my points. Now I'm going to use my line tool again. And I can hover over my bicep line and find that point that I had deposited. I'm going to click, hold, and drag. Now, if I hold the shift key down, it constrains it so I'm dragging straight up and down. But I actually need the line to extend above and below my bicep line. And if I do hold down the Alt or Option key at the same time, then when I click and drag, I'm actually dragging from that point out. Now don't worry about the top going past the top of the sleeve. And for some reason my screen does not want to redraw all of that. But when I zoom out, you can see my line is there. Let's do the segment on the other side. I hover over till I find my anchor point. I'm going to click and drag. If I hold the shift key down, it constrains it in a horizontal or vertical angle. If I hold the option key, it begins to draw it from my click point outwards. And then let go once I have passed my wrist level. Now, if your guideline here were to extend to the outside of this, follow the directions on the book to angle the line from here to there, and you would have to put a point and then move this single point over so it is within the wrist level. All right, next thing we need to do is actually bring the perimeter of the sleeve to the forefront of the stacking order of everything on this layer. These two guidelines were drawn last, so they're drawn over the top. But by clicking on my sleeve layer, I can left click on my mouse, or I can go to Object menu up here, go to Arrange, and I want to bring it to the front. When I do that, now it's in front, and so when I go to add my points on it, I can do that because that segment is the one in front. Okay, so I want to place that on my sleeve curve up here and here. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I have one more segment to draw. And in this case, it actually comes from this side over, and I'm shift and hold and on out. Again, I need to zoom in here. Going to click on the sleeve again. I need to move it forward one more time again because this last guideline was drawn over the top of it. In this case, I'm going to add the point at this level equal to the one on the left side or the back side of the sleeve. The next places I need points are on my wrist level. Right here on that one at the center line, as well as on this guideline right here. Now let me zoom out and go up and check my top cap because I also need a point at this guideline on the cap curve of the sleeve, and I can see I do have one. Now that I have all the points that I need, I can cut those points. Remember, your scissors tool is behind your eraser tool. So I need to cut at the center top guideline. I need to cut at the point that was added on the X guideline and the point added on the Y guideline. I am going to zoom out just a little bit, down here, go back to my scissors tool, and I need to cut this point and this point and that point. This way it allows the sleeve to be segmented, just as if you were cutting it in paper and then spreading pieces apart. All right. I do not really need these guidelines anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. I need to select the sleeve object. Okay, I've already arranged that. Sorry, I'm checking on my steps here as I've written them in the lesson so that you can follow. We need to select just our top section of the cap here, and that is good. I don't need the guideline there, so I just need these. I held down my shift key and clicked on that, and it removed it from the selection. Now, I need to move that up a 1/4 of an inch. So let me zoom in, and this is where your keyboard arrows come in handy. By holding down the shift key and pushing my up arrow, I move that selection 1/8 of an inch. If I push it one more time, I have now moved it a 1/4 inch. All right, I am going to use my selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click away from everything. Now I'm also going to zoom out just a little bit because I need to click and drag to get everything on the, cut the anchor points, here we go. Select the right hand sections of the sleeve, and we're going to move it out 1/8 of an inch. So with my selection arrow, I need the items on the right hand side of the sleeve, but I do not need this guideline or my bicep line right now. So I'm holding my shift key down and clicking on those objects and removing them from the selection group. And my keyboard shortcuts, if I only need to move it 1/8 of an inch, shift and my arrow key, one tap spreads that out 1/8 of an inch. That's for my center. Now I need to actually go and get the far right hand point. So I've opened it up 1/8 of an inch down the center. Now I need to open it up 1/8 of an inch here. Again, I do not need my bicep line. And shift, arrow key, that moves it 1/8 of an inch. Now I can click and get this left hand side of the sleeve, hold the shift key down, arrow key, and tap outwards. So now it has spread out. I do not need this guideline anymore. Now, zooming in, we can see that spread. That is very similar to the spread in the diagram for the bottom of page 462 for the sleeve. All right. Few more things. We need to drop the underarm points, just like you had done on your sloper piece. Remember, the underarm point, we had moved it out and down 1/2 an inch. So we're going to do the same to the sleeve. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. You can either do it by keyboard taps using the shift key and the arrows, or by direct selecting just that point. I can click and look at my grid here for 1, 2, 3, 4/8 is a 1/2 inch, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. So down and over, and that adjusted that for me. And over here, I'm going to select this point under the arm, and again, going down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4 to adjust that point. Now zooming out, you can see that the bicep line is not in the same place. I can just redraw that, get rid of the old one, use my segment, and go from this anchor point to that anchor point. I'm click, holding, and dragging, let up, and I can click away from everything. Now when I moved those, I might have slightly adjusted this curve down here so that my notches just might need to be shifted a little bit to get to closer to the line here, but that's all right. Getting closer. There we go. All right, a couple different tips here on how to close these lines. You got two options. One is grab your pen tool and click from one point to add on, and then you see the closing. You can close that. You could do the same thing again here to here. But there's also, in some cases, the join tool works by holding and dragging across the 2 points. They seem to need to be close together, and for some reason, if that does not want to work very well, try zooming in or out on your object. I don't know why it doesn't always do that just like you want it to, but that's just the case it is. Now then, our center guideline, we're going to drag up to the point, and looks like down here we might need to do some adjusting as well. So I'm going to zoom in. Let's try our join tool again. Here to there did not want to work, and there to there for some reason did not want to work. Again, let's try that, and I zoomed out just a little bit. Let's see if it adjusted. It didn't. So if it does not want to work, just go to your trusty pen tool and add on, and then close the segment. Here, add on and close the segment. Over here, we may need to adjust this point up just a little bit so it's kind of in line. And again, my pen tool up and over. I think that works just fine. It's a smooth enough line for us. And I'm going to zoom out. There we go. There is our sleeve. It has been expanded somewhat. I may find that this point over here on the armhole, when I dropped this point down and moved it out, this one stayed anchored where it was. So I may want to nudge that out just a little bit to kind of not exactly straighten out that sleeve, but move it out just a little. And same for these points here on the left side of the sleeve. Again, analyze the diagram on the page, bottom of the page 462 in your book. Now we can see how that sleeve changed a little bit through the look here, and for some reason that seemed to have expanded quite a bit. So you know what, I'm going to click and bring these points in just a little bit. Click, hold, and drag and bring these in just a little bit. All right, and I'm going to unlock my torso draft because I'm going to go ahead and select my sleeve and the grain line. Can see my selection on that layer. Click and drag that selection box that's highlighted up to my sleeve. Now I can turn off lock my torso layer. I can turn the eyeball off, and now you can see I have all of these pieces or notations on my sleeve. So there is the sleeve. It has been expanded to accommodate a little bit larger or looser fit to go over clothing that might be worn underneath a jacket. You will need to develop these sloper changes and these sloper pieces prior to actually starting on the moto jacket design for the assignment in week 3. Thank you for tuning in, and good luck with everything.